get a gauge on who should be mixing in a water. I think we have a couple good candidates this week. It's a great NFL slate. So, hopefully it isn't as ugly as the other mix in a waters we've had. It's usually me. I'm a de facto auto mix in a water, but Stuckey and Raybon, I got to tell you, our first tweet here, just summing it up. It's the Dolphins plus 2.5. That line is kind of bounced around from 1.5, 2.5. And the thinking here from W69 is that Taylor Swift might not be there. This game's in Germany, early start on Sunday. And without Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce's splits aren't that great. I guess they're very noticeable, as this guy says. Raybon, are you buying into this? Does this person need to mix in a water?
Yes, I don't know what they're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about. You're putting the emphasis on the wrong syllable, and this tweet makes no sense. I'm lost. So yeah, all of y'all need to mix in the water.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Stuckey, how about you?
Yeah, mixed in a couple waters here. There, who cares? There's zero correlation. And yeah, I mean, there's going to be a lot of that's going to sum up kind of what you're going to hear. You're also going to hear about a lot of sharps on Miami. A lot of Taylor Swift handicappers on Miami. They're the shiny new toy every couple of weeks, and they step up in class and get flattened. I mean, you just need Mahomes to win the game, essentially. It's the easiest bet in sports. It's 19-6-1 against the spread, including the postseason. As a field goal favorite, or as less than a field goal favorite or an underdog, 19-6-1. It's covering by about almost a touchdown per game. So yeah, you'll hear lots of reasons for the Dolphins. They all need to mix in water.
I think that's good.
Easy enough. I mean, it's pretty straightforward when you mention the Mahomes record. Let's go to
the Super Bowl. Go back to the Super Bowl last year. Everyone tried to talk themselves into the Eagles, and at the end of the day, regardless of what happened, you just need Mahomes to win the game. So you're the greatest quarterback in NFL history going against. And look, by the way, take DVOA for example. Chiefs over the past 30 years are one of a handful of teams at this point in the season that are in the top 5 offense, defense, and special teams. And that rarely happens. Dolphins, top 5 in offense, as you'd expect. They're like 22nd defense, and their special teams are horrendous. So you're just asking for how much can the offense do. Chiefs defense has also been really good. And then you have huge advantages when the Chiefs have the ball. And then special teams, that's just the kicker.
Yeah, Stuckey welcoming the Swifties to DVOA. I don't know if that's been, I don't know if they're at that level of their gambling education quite yet. So
the DVOA tour. Yeah. Also, and you brought up KC's defense, which you could argue has been their, I think it's not really disputable. It's been their best unit, most consistent unit this year. When Miami faced Buffalo, good front. They struggle. When they faced the Eagles a few weeks ago, good front. Tua makes a mistake, usually can overcome it against a bad team. Usually, though, when it's a better team, that kind of changes the whole flow of the game. Let's go to this next one.
Chiefs defense last week held they had 5 turnovers in the Broncos Super Bowl. They held the Broncos like 3.5 yards per play. Their defense was fine again last week.
This next one, 2 folks are interested in the Seattle Seahawks. AJ, which this kind of makes sense. He's got Seahawks in his handle. Seahawks 1994. Must be definitely has grown up in the golden age of Taylor Swift, that's for sure. And then Ben, BN Singer 05, Seattle on the money line. So the Seahawks are getting 6 at Baltimore. Raybon, do these two, AJ and Ben, need to mix in a water? Should they just take the points if they like Seattle? Take the points as opposed to the money line.
I'd definitely take the points, but I don't mind the money line, so I'm not going to tell them to mix in the water. We know this is what Baltimore does, especially as, favorites. They're kind of like the Chiefs these days a little bit. I mean, I got burned by them, just endless amounts of fourth quarter possessions for the Arizona Cardinals last week. But the Ravens, I think Geno Smith is going to struggle in this game. So I'm not really enthusiastic myself about the Seahawks, but the Ravens laying these kind of points, it's never easy, except, that Detroit game they were only 3. So yeah, no mixing of water for me, but I don't love it either. So I would prefer to take the points.
Maybe in the first half, because we know how good the Ravens are. So maybe that's where you'd want to stay away from Seattle. Stuckey, you just threw out that stat on Mahomes. Per our friend Evan Abrams, Lamar Jackson, 19-6 against the spread as a favorite of 3 points or less. or as an underdog, but in all other spots, he's 10 games under 500 against the number. So do these folks, do they have to mix in a water? Or are you like Raybon, take the points instead?
Yeah, they have very similar splits. If you look at like Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes, like there's so many mirrors as far as like when they're favored by over field goal versus not. Yeah, they need to mix in a water here. Seattle on the money line. I don't see Seattle going into Baltimore and getting the win. The Ravens offense is super underrated right now. I mean, Raybon lost that Ravens bet last week. It took acts of God to get that done. I mean, you're talking onside kick and recovery in the NFL, which I mean, that it never happened. It was like 4% chance, and then you need
they missed the field goal.
Yeah,
they missed the
field goal. I mean, that took acts of God. But Ravens offense super underrated right now. They're hitting their stride, and like, look, once they got going, and if you really go back over the past month, it was just drops against Pittsburgh, red zone calls against Tennessee. But since then, that offense is rolling, and I agree with what the Ravens like to run on defense. I think Geno Smith is going to struggle here. And I know everyone hypes the Seattle defense, but I dug into them this week. I think that they're going to get picked apart a bit here. Look, to start the year, they gave up 30, 31, and 27 to the Panthers, Lions, and Rams. Since then, everyone's changed their tune on the Seattle defense. They played the Giants with, four and grab our producer for a Barber and put her on the offensive line. A hampered Burrow, Dobbs, and the Cardinals, and then Walker and the Browns. So, I mean, you cannot play 4 easier offenses and quarterbacks over that stretch. So, I think, and they've played a very easy schedule of opposing offenses overall. I think their defense is overrated, and all their pressure numbers, they play against the Giants when all of us were playing offensive line, they had like 74 sacks, so their pressure numbers are all inflated. I think the Ravens get the dub here at home.
Gifford at left tackle. None of you guys mentioned, I'm a little shocked, the travel here for Baltimore. They went London, back home, all the way west to Arizona, back home again now. I hope they have their miles plus or a gold card, whatever, because is that a factor in either one of your handicaps here?
I mean, if you look at it, they basically cruised against Tennessee. They come back and just blow the doors off Detroit. They're up 35-0, a quarter into the game. And then they go to Arizona. It's basically a glorified scrimmage. They didn't have to exert much energy in any of these games, is what I'm getting at. So it's not like they've been in these hard-fought battles for 60 minutes, where I think that might be more of a detriment, because these teams, they know how to travel. Ravens are a well-coached team, and they just haven't exuded much energy over the past few weeks. I think it's a good point to bring up, but I don't think it's much of an impact here. Seattle's also going across the country too. I mean, here, so.
And let me say one thing about this slate in general, because I think with all of these marquee matchups, you got Chiefs, Dolphins, you have Ravens, Seahawks, you have Bills, Bengals, so
Cowboys,
many of the
Eagles.
Cowboys, Eagles.
You just need one TV. That's it, because the other games are horrendous.
But I will say this, from a betting perspective, I think, some of the more casual bettors are kind of going to get locked in on only these games. And it's a huge slate. There's a lot of uncertainty, and I think a lot of opportunities in a lot of these other less popular games, I'll say. So, just because you're going to watch these games because they are obviously going to be great, don't think those are the only games you have to bet, or that you have to bet these games. I do think there's some other under the radar spots that are being overlooked.
We have a tweet here from David Joseph. He has Jacksonville to win the Super Bowl. He says again, I'm guessing that he's been continuing to hit Jacksonville. Jacksonville currently 18-1 on Bet365. Raybon, you interested in this at all?
No, I'm going to say mixing the water with that one. You still are seeing, I think that the AFC was always Mahomes, Allen, Burrow. The Dolphins might even mix in if they ever show that they can beat a good team. I just think
Jackson, Lamar too.
Yeah, exactly. The Ravens are very, very talented, and if Jackson stays healthy. So I just think you're kind of at the back of the line, so to speak, And I mean, 18-1 isn't. I don't love it. Yeah, so I'm gonna tell you mixing the water on that one. Probably still a year away for Jacksonville.
Stuck.
Yeah, I'm I mean, look, if you really like the Jags, you have a premier quarterback who I think is just a little too inconsistent, and I ultimately just don't trust the pass defense to get through the AFC gauntlet. By the time we get there, I mean, look, Burrow's healthier now. The Bills' offense is going to be fine. You have the Dolphins' offense, the Ravens' offense. Like getting through that. Now, the good thing is you're in a division which you should cruise to winning. So you don't have to worry. I mean, like these other teams are going to have tougher paths. You might be able to rest up earlier. From a timing perspective, I would wait on the Jags. I mean, because look, they just won 4 straight. And I mean, they won 5 straight. I think they won 5 straight. They won 5 straight games, but like, yeah, they beat up the beat up Bills. They beat the Falcons, the Colts, the Saints, and the Steelers. They haven't really beat anybody. And then you're buying in probably at a high point. They have the 49ers next, a pissed off 49ers team.
They still get Cincinnati. They still play Baltimore.
Yep, that's what I was going to mention. So, but then they have the Texans, Titans. After that, so they could go 2-1 over the next 3. But I think that that they got Bengals at Browns, home against the Ravens, at Bucks, like right around that time. I think if they kind of dip a little bit, you can get a little better price. I think that might be a more prudent approach. I don't despise it. I don't see any value in that number, but they're in the mix and they're going to be there. And like, once you get in the NFL, it's all you really need to do. But the AFC is just such a gauntlet. I don't know if their pass defense will hold up, and their offense just can be a little bit too inconsistent at times. So no need to mix in the water, but I'm not serving this guy another drink.